So, welcome back to another exciting episode of The People's Professor with yours truly, Professor Fields. And I'm really excited that you would come back and continue to embark on this journey of learning, at the collegiate level on a topic that's so near and dear to my heart, something that I'm so passionate about, and that's talking about the criminal justice system. As I shared in the first video, I thoroughly enjoy educating this next generation. And I'm thrilled that you would want to tune in to find out and see what are some of these topics we're going to cover. As I shared, right now, as a professor, I'm lecturing on gangs and I'm lecturing on homicide. But I thought it would be really fitting before you all start to attend class with me and see what it's like being in the classroom with my students. And just to give you a little overview, in my gangs class, I have 45 students. In my victimology class, I have two of them. I have one class that's full of 45 students. I have another class that's full of 45. In homicide, I have excuse me, not 100, but I have 75 students. So it's really exciting to be able to impart the knowledge that I'm giving to those students with you all, and you all getting to sit and participate and watch and learn and kind of just continue on this journey as I'm moving into the second half of the semester and moving towards the end of the semester, and then, of course, transitioning to the summer. So one of those topics that I shared with you all in the first video was this topic, victimology. And I thought I would come back to this because as I'm going to be moving forward with presenting lectures and you all seeing the lecture as if you're a student, it will come from a very unique perspective, and it'll be like you're in class. Take notes, make comments, talk amongst yourselves and with people from around the world on what we talked about this particular week in class. Whether you thought it was captivating, whether you were intrigued by it, whether you learned something that you didn't know. Again, you can always like and subscribe, so be sure to like and subscribe. And if you didn't see that first video and you were curious about hearing what some of the previous topics that I had in like homicide, I would love to share those. If you want to hear about some of my other topics in gangs, I would love to share those because I'm still a member of the Gang Investigators Association and had the privilege of being in a gang meeting just yesterday. And it was so fascinating to be driving towards that meeting, see gang graffiti, be like, there's something right there. And then later on in the meeting, some of my law enforcement or former law enforcement brethren brought that to everyone's attention. And I was like, I can't wait to share that with the students. So, having said that, when looking at this topic of victimology, what is victimology? Some of you in here may have heard of victimology. Others of you may say, well, Professor Fields, I never, ever heard of victimology. What is victimology? Victimology is the study of victims and their victimization. It's a very simple topic. However, what's very unique about victimology, and it's a sub-discipline and subsection of criminology, and I'm a criminologist through and through. I love theory. I know a lot of people, and especially students, they get intimidated and they get afraid when talking about theory. But as I shared and read some of those comments to you all in the first video, some of the real comments that my students have said about my theories classes, I break it down in a way that is, number one, engaging, but number two, easy to follow. And a lot of that too deals with my relatability because, you know, I have had quite the upbringing. I had quite the childhood. And so it's really fascinating to be able to tie my background into a subject matter and a discipline that I'm very passionate about, and then to break it down and share it with students in a way that it will be easy for them to follow, because theory can be intimidating. And so we don't have theory this semester, so you'll have to stay tuned for a future semester on theory. But having said that, because victimology deals with the study of victims and their victimization, I thought it would be a great setup and segue into what some future lectures will be. Because right now, again, we're coming in the middle of the semester. Obviously, if I had launched this channel at the beginning of the semester, you would have been on the journey the whole semester. And because of the vast amount of content, unless there is a um, major appetite and request to learn, what'll happen is some weeks you'll get a victimology lecture, or other weeks you'll get homicide and gangs, or you might get a homicide and victimology. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what the response is, because I'm new to this, and I'm just giving it a shot. So let's talk about victimology. And I felt like this next episode would be great as a nice segue in. Yes, I could talk about gang stuff and a lot of the gang classes and trainings, and still my involvement with the Gang Investigators Association. I can do that, and I can talk about a little bit of my career. But I felt like, let me give you all a story on how I'm able to relate the material to students. And maybe when you hear this or see this video, you might say, wow, I can get on board with what Professor Fields is teaching. And I can even think about a time when I may have been victimized, or I may have been victimized and not even realize I was victimized. So, one of my favorite topics within victimology is homicide victimization. Even though I have a class on homicide, I do thoroughly enjoy the homicide victimization lecture, because it's a lecture that tries to give a crash course on homicide. And because homicide is our most popular class at the university, that class fills up instantaneously. In fact, my class had 45 seats. I requested an extra 30 seats, and the seats filled up in about 2 hours. No lie. And I still had a lot of students reaching out to me personally saying, Professor Fields, can I get into that class? Please. I'd sit on the floor. And I'm like, unfortunately, I can't do anything else. So I try to reward those students who take me in classes like victimology with a little bit of homicide stuff. And I try to give them some other topics from other classes, because I know some of them may go their whole academic career and never get that. In homicide victimization, we have a very controversial topic. Some of you out there may have heard of it, and it's called stand your ground laws. Now, if you're from Florida, if you're from other states in the South, you probably have heard of stand your ground laws. In that lecture, we have some heavy debate on what are stand your ground laws, and more importantly, we have some heavy debates on whether or not this law should be repealed, or are some people taking full advantage of this law, almost treating it like it's the wild, wild west. Let me give you a wonderful example. We all heard about the case back around, I believe, 2009 or 10, somewhere around there, involving George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. That case brought stand your ground laws to the forefront. But have some of you out here heard of the case of Marcus Wilson? Have you heard about that case in Georgia? Let me give you a crash course. Marcus Wilson was a 17-year-old or 18-year-old black man in Statesboro, Georgia, riding in a car with his white girlfriend. Marcus, his parents are mixed. He's biracial, but he's riding with his white girlfriend late at night in Statesboro, Georgia. Uh, he reported that a group of teenagers in a truck tried to run him off the road, him and his girlfriend, and they were shouting racial slurs to him and racial slurs to her, because she was a white woman with a black man. He fired one shot because he heard something hit his car, and he didn't know if they were opening fire on him. And he fired one shot, and unfortunately, the bullet went through the back windshield of the truck, and it struck a young lady. I believe that young lady was 17 years old, the victim. Now, Georgia, uh, like many southern states, can be a little bit more Second Amendment friendly. I guess that's the politically correct way of terming it. Having said that, Marcus was subsequently charged, and he was ultimately convicted and was given a 10-year prison sentence. So we had a powerful discussion in class where some students were furious because they said it's a double standard. They said that George Zimmerman was acquitted for shooting and killing Trayvon Martin, a young man who was coming home with a bag of Skittles and a drink during, All-Star NBA weekend, and he was followed and he was stereotyped and he was harassed, and of course the scuffle ensued, and if he was shot and killed. In this case, they look at the Marcus Wilson saga and they say, well, Marcus is driving a car. He's harassed by a group of white, teenagers in a truck. It's dark. It's late at night. Hears something hit his vehicle. Doesn't know if he's getting shot at. Having worked in the field, I know what a gunshot sounds like, but he didn't know. He fires one shot, goes through the back window, shoots and kills the victim. He's ultimately convicted. And students are upset about that. They're like, Florida, you get away with all sorts of crimes. And in my classes, because I'm very debate oriented, and that's one of the things you will likely see in some of the lectures. So hopefully my students, as they're talking, their voice will translate. Um, we'll see. A lot of students were upset about that. Students from both, uh, uh, ethnic backgrounds. It wasn't just a one-sided argument. I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of, as I continue to kind of allow you all to get to know me, and again, I've shared my background. I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of tell you all where I had a situation, and it was a very similar situation many years ago. My wife and I, we were traveling on the turnpike. We had our children. They were pretty young, but they were dry. They were very young. We had just gotten off a flight, and we were going up the turnpike. And for those of you who are from Florida or who know anything about the turnpike, you know that it could be a long stretch of road with not a lot on that road. And to make a long story short, in us driving up the turnpike, we saw flashing lights out the back of our vehicle. And my wife was like, well, what is that? And I'm like, yeah, I don't really know. And it turns out it was a very aggressive truck, very similar to what Marcus Wilson described in his ordeal. And again, our children are very, very young at this point. They're very, very young. And this aggressive truck was driving very aggressively, kind of driving up on us, like we're driving and driving up on us, and then it would back off, and we would keep driving, and then driving up on us, and then it would back off, and then driving up on us, and then it would come around us. And I'm looking like I think I even honked like, you can go around. I mean, this part of the turnpike, there's two lanes. It's not like I'm taking one lane. I'm like, you, and they're just thinking it's fun and games. Now, you see me, black man, my wife, black woman, my children, black children. It could be very jarring to have that experience. And if I'm not mistaken, this was probably like about midnight, maybe 1 in the morning. It was very, very, very late, and no other cars are out. And I remember we called the Florida Highway Patrol to report these individuals. We could not get a license plate because they never passed us. But we said, hey, look, so we're in a level of fear. And one of the things to understand in victimology, and you'll hear me talk about this occasionally throughout the course, is this whole notion of fear. We can't really quantify fear. What may be fearful to me may not be fearful to you. What may be fearful to you may not be fearful to me, but we can't quantify fear. It's an emotion, right? When we talked to Florida Highway Patrol and the dispatch, they said, sir, where you, based on where you said you are, we the nearest trooper, the nearest state trooper could be 20, 30, 40 miles away. So the best advice we can give you is just to monitor what these people are doing. If you and your wife have the occasion to get off on an exit and maybe try to get to a safe spot, try to do so. But that's all we can tell you. And that's frustrating because if me and my family are victimized, we want to ensure that we can receive assistance at that given time. It also begs the question, and when I share this in lecture, why some people feel the need to say the law is not even, and I sometimes have to take the law into my hands. Now, we're not going to be vigilantes here. I have some movies in my background. Also, say hi to Godzilla. Uh, we're not Batman. We're not Daredevil. We're not any type of vigilante. But with that being said, what can you do to protect yourself from becoming a victim? So I want to leave you with this again as you continue on with this journey and get excited and get on board with coming to class and coming to lecture and learning. I have a theme most semesters. I'll probably change this in the future since I am the specialist on victimology at my university. Um, I want to leave you with this. You're the only person responsible for preventing your own victimization. Let me repeat that. You're the only person responsible for preventing your own victimization. It's not on the police. It's not on your parents. It's not on your mom or your dad or your cousin or your sister. It's not on your best friend. It's not on your pastor. It's not on any other person. It is solely on you. You are the only person responsible for preventing your own victimization. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming to another kind of pre-lecture, so to speak. And with that being said, I really look forward to seeing you in class. Remember that you're the only person responsible for preventing your own victimization. So thank you so much. Again, be sure to subscribe, put some comments in, like some comments, make some comments, interact with each other. We're going to treat this as a worldwide classroom. And I look forward to seeing you all hopefully in the next video or two, which will be the first lecture. So take care, be safe, God bless. And again, thank you for tuning in and subscribing. Bye.